So you can 10x your misery if you want to, or you can learn how to handle uncertainty. In this video, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about uncertainty. I want to talk about what it is. I want to talk about how it wreaks havoc on our lives. And I want to talk about what you can do about it. Now, this is going to be one of those videos that is certainly applicable to alcohol, but this is applicable to every single person. So if you are a person and you are watching this, keep watching because I have a lot to say. So I called this video 10x your misery. I don't know, maybe that's a little crazy, but like the reality is this is the power we have, right? When we come up against uncertainty, which is a part of life, we'll talk about this in a minute, we will create a reality for us and ourselves. And I really do mean create, like 100% create. And we experience this reality, whatever we might do. So let's break this down a little bit. Like, what is uncertainty? Well, by definition, right, uncertainty is not knowing. So you are facing a scenario, you're facing a situation, you're facing a meeting or a job interview or whatever it might be, right? You're facing maybe a scary health thing, right? And there is uncertainty, right? Uncertainty means you don't know which way it's going to go. And it's funny, it's not like there's only two ways, right? There's like literally millions of ways, but uncertainty means we don't know. Uncertainty is not knowing. And there's a reason I keep repeating this. And the reason I keep repeating this is that the vast majority of us, when we run into uncertainty, we make that mean that something bad's going to happen. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen with this scary health diagnosis. So probably the worst. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that job. So I probably won't, right? This is a mistake. And if you think about it for a moment, I promise you, you have made it many times in your life. I have also made it many times in my life. Like, this is a mistake that we all make. So what happens, right? What happens when we do this? When we create this reality, we create this way of feeling. We look at the uncertainty, and that uncertainty gives us dread. Why does it give us dread? Why does it give us anxiety? It gives us anxiety because we go into the future and we're like, oh my God, what if X, Y, and Z happens? What if A, B, and C happens? And I promise you, X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, they're not the fun things, right? That's not what we tend to do. What we tend to do instead is look at the worst case scenario, or look at how things could work out in the worst possible way, or the most painful way, or the most detrimental way. Like, that is what we tend to do. And when we do this, we create anxiety for ourselves. That's where I talk about 10x your misery. You might be in a scenario where you're waiting for a difficult answer, where you're waiting for some sort of problem to work out, where you're waiting for something to change. And that is uncomfortable enough, but you can 10x that misery by assuming that it's the worst possible outcome, right? That's what I'm talking about. So like, why does this happen? What the actual fuck? Like, why would we do this to ourselves? Because it's funny, because when you're outside of it, you can see it very clearly, right? But like when you're in it, it seems real, right? So what is going on here? Well, it's just what brains do. As a matter of fact, this is kind of a good thing. So your brain, my brain, all brains are meaning-making machines. What the hell does that mean? Well, what it means is that our brain's job is to keep us alive, right? Our brain's job is to keep us, finding food and, doing things to perpetuate the species. So finding mates and, doing things to keep us alive, like, I don't know, not walking into a lit fire or, like stuff like this. That's what our brains do. So they give us thoughts and ideas to try to protect us. So our brain will look at a scenario and be like, all right, I've got to figure this out. All right, what do I need to protect? And very often this idea of protect, it kind of gets synonymous with this idea of prepare for the worst. So, you look at uncertainty and you're like, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Well, I'm going to get ready for that. Well, here's the problem. When it's big, massive uncertainty, I mean, the worst case scenario is only limited by your imagination. It's only limited by that. It could keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's absolutely true, right? And so what happens is our brains give us these thoughts to try to protect us from the worst of the worst. But what happens is that as we think these thoughts, we scare ourselves, again, innocently. We don't mean to, but we suddenly think, oh my God, what if I did lose my job? Oh my God, what if this did happen? Oh man, what if that did come back as malignant, right? Like whatever it is, we think about this, and there's a really incredible thing that happens. I'll do more videos on this as time goes on, but when you think a thought, you will feel the emotions from that thought, even if it's not real. This is huge, right? So like, if you think about that worst case scenario, you will start to feel emotions like, oh my God, this thing is actually happening. And then what happens when we start to feel that, we start to mistake that for reality. And so what we're facing is uncertainty. Again, we don't know. We don't know which way this is going to go. We don't know what's going to work out. We're facing uncertainty, and then we're saying, oh man, I think about this negative thing. All of a sudden, instead of facing uncertainty, we're facing this negative thing. But that's never been the case, right? It's always only been thought, but it's the tricks that our minds can play on us, right? That when we think these thoughts, we feel these emotions can be strong, and we start to panic, right? We start to feel bad. And so what does this mean for our experience, right? Like, what does this mean? Well, hell, I mean, any one of us at any given time is facing a bunch of uncertainty. There are certainly times in our lives, there are times when that uncertainty might be greater. There are times when maybe you can't see as far down the road as you're used to. It's still uncertainty, but it might feel a little bit scarier, right? And so when we have these thoughts and when we feel these negative emotions, we mistake that for meaning something about the outside world. Right. And so what we do is we think about this uncertain. We say, well, because I'm nervous about this, it means that this is happening. Right. And that might not be a conscious thought, but if you look at your own thought process, this is exactly what happens. Right. When we recognize uncertainty, we have an incredible amount of power to just completely ruin our day. Ruin our week, ruin our month. You can do as much of this as you want, because at the end of the day, uncertainty means not knowing. It doesn't mean fearing. Uncertainty means it could go this way or that way or a million different ways in between. The moment we collapse all of those possibilities down to one, and we say, this is what's going to happen, this is what I'm afraid of, we start to have all types of emotional and physical reactions to this, and we can make ourselves pretty miserable. Right? So that's what uncertainty is. And that is why we have such a hard time with it, because we neglect to let uncertainty be uncertain. We say, no, I need to know this. And again, our brains have really good reason for wanting to know how things turn out, right? It's their job to keep us alive. But what we have to be able to do is see that and work with it differently. The reality is that you don't need to sit in uncertainty and be miserable all the time. Like, you don't need to do that. As a matter of fact, what you can do, instead of sitting there and being miserable, instead of sitting there and experiences it, is you can work on things, and I'm going to give you a few things in a minute, which help sort of reopen you to the fact that, like, this is uncertainty. This isn't the bad thing that you're feeling. It is uncertainty. And we'll talk about that right now. So, like, what the hell do we do, right? What do we do? Well, the very first thing, and this is massive, is recognize what you are doing. Recognize the heart of what I'm saying in this video, that you are taking uncertainty and you are making it mean something else. You are taking uncertainty and you are turning that uncertain situation into the worst case scenario. This awareness is massive. And oftentimes just this alone allows us to take a little bit of a breath, right? It gives us the opportunity to see, oh, wait a minute, hang on. I am not there yet. I have created this scenario, and our brains are amazingly powerful. Like, it really, really is incredible what our minds can do. But by remembering that I am dealing with uncertainty, not this worst case scenario, it can start the process of letting our thoughts settle. Right, so the first thing is recognize what you're doing. The second thing is get back in touch with what's real and what's imaginary, or I should say what's real and what's thought, right? The reality is that we have certain facts in our lives, right? And these facts might give rise to uncertainty. As soon as that uncertainty exists, we start making assumptions. Well, this is going to happen, and then she's going to say that, and then he's going to do this, and then this will happen at my job, and then it'll happen over there, and da 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 da. All of those assumptions are thought, right? They aren't necessarily true. They might be accurate. They might become true. That is the fact, right? In the same way that worst case scenario might become true, but it isn't right now. And so dealing with this negativity, dealing with all of the heaviness and the anxiety and the worry and the stress, dealing with that now when it's not even true, that, friends, is paying interest on a debt you don't even have. So the second thing you can do here is get clear on what's real and what's assumed. So make a list, right? Make a list of the facts. Right? This happened, that happened. This is what I know. This is what I know. This is what I know. And then make a list of all of those assumptions. And then take a minute and recognize that, like, you could make, like, how many different assumptions could you make here? How many different possibilities are there? When we can do this, we do two things. First, we realize, like, okay, this is the rock solid, like, foundation I can build on. And again, it leads me to uncertainty, not this super negative outcome. That's number one. And then number two, when we start looking at those different assumptions and we can go, oh my God, like there's so many degrees of freedom here. Like this could turn out in so many different ways. I don't have to make the assumptions I'm making, right? So number one is recognize what you're doing. Number two is get back in touch with what's real and what's imaginary. Number three is work through the energy. This shit revs us up. Right? Like, I don't know if I'm revved up right now because I've had way the hell too much coffee, but I don't know if you're like me, worry and anxiety, like it spins me right up. Like it's very difficult to calm down. And one of the things we can do is just burn off that energy that we create. We create so much energy by grinding on this stuff, by worrying, by thinking, by focusing. That energy is just there. It's just in our system. So go do something with it. Go to the gym, go for a walk, do something to burn energy. Do something that will help you physically sort of work through some of the stuff that's going on. Just doing this, again, this is another piece. Any one of these is like a huge step forward, and it's going to help you feel a little bit better, right? So recognize what you're doing, get back in touch with what's real and what's imaginary, work through the energy, and allow yourself to let go. Now, this one's kind of tricky, and people will say to me, and I'll make other videos about this in the future too, like, how do I do that? Like, how I want to let go, but like, how? And the reality is you let go of things all day, every day. Chances are before you started watching this video, you let go of stuff, right? Like that's probably the case. So how? Well, you already know how. Right? But let me give you a few things you can do. First of all, let your focus drift somewhere else, especially if you've made the list of facts. And if there's nothing for you to do right now, which a lot of times uncertainty is a lot of waiting, but if there's nothing for you to do, then sitting here spinning your wheels on it makes zero sense. So go forth and do something else, right? Whatever the hell that happens to be, right? Maybe it is that you, maybe it is that you play a video game or you read a book or you, I don't know, burn off the energy. Or you watch, I don't know, Star Trek. Go watch Star Trek. That's always my number one recommendation for everything. But like whatever it is, right? Do something else. Allow your focus to shift. And what you will see is those thoughts of frustration and anger, they'll start to dissipate. The more you put your attention into something else, and it'll get snapped back like, oh, no, what about this? What about this danger? Remember, those emotions make us think that there's a real danger, but there's not. And so when you catch yourself, go put your focus back over here. And even though you might snap back a few times, every time you put your focus back, you're going to feel a little bit better and a little bit better. And before you know it, you're going to be much, much closer to baseline, right? So recognize what you're doing, get back in touch with what's real and imaginary, work through the energy, allow yourself to let go, and finally talk about it. I can't underline this one enough. Find people that you can talk to about what you're thinking. To find people that you can talk to that will help you work through, like, geez, I'm so like fixated on this negative possibility, and I can't seem to let it go. Can I just explain it to you? Speaking about this stuff does a few things. First of all, especially when we're upset. Like when we're upset in our heads tends to be this like swirling mass of like, memories and like thoughts and, pictures and emotions and physical sensations. And it's so much. Just taking that and organizing that with the structure of language can help us feel significantly better. On top of that, expressing it and having someone go, yeah, having someone validate, that will also make you feel massively better. And so if you do that, if you talk about it, and it could be with a partner or a friend, or if you're part of my membership or whatever it is, right? Like it doesn't matter where you go, but like go talk about it. That will start to let out some of the pressure, which can make a huge difference. So there you have it, friends. Like don't 10x your misery. Uncertainty is just uncertain. It is not a guarantee of a negative outcome, nor is it a guarantee of a positive outcome. It is a guarantee that you don't know what the outcome is. And so don't let yourself go beyond that. I know it's tempting. And if you find yourself doing it, if you find your brain doing what brains do, right, which is creating scenarios and building this whole thing and giving you these emotions, try out the things that I mentioned here in the video, right? Recognize what you're doing, get back in touch with what's real, work through the energy, allow yourself to let go and talk about it. If you can do those things, you are going to avoid 10xing your misery and you'll be able to navigate uncertainty in a totally different way. So if you enjoyed what I had to say here, please subscribe. And I will, of course, be continuing to post videos. Oddly enough, I was not going to post until next week, but I was just motivated to make this one for you right now. So I did. But there's going to be new videos every week. There's going to be live videos. There's going to be shorts. There's so much stuff. So I would love to have you along for the ride. So please subscribe and I will see you in the next video.